View from the Gutters, episode 135. Welcome to View from the Gutters, the comic book podcast where each episode we discuss a collected edition, trade paperback, or graphic novel, and then recommend and vote on the book for the next episode. Warning: the discussion portion of this show has massive spoilers for that book. On this episode, we discuss The Unbeatable Squirrel Girl, and to skip ahead to the recommendation section, skip to 4821. Special thank you to our Patreon episode sponsors, Brandon Hill, Brian May, Addison Appleby, and Becca Lewandowski. View from the Gutters, episode 135. I'm Andrew Chard.
I'm Joe Preddy.
Brant Gillahan Eddy.
I'm Kaylee Fleeman.
And I'm Kerbatron 2000.
Everyone was really confused during that intro.
Yeah. I did, Joe. I thought we were going to go around in a circle, and you
this
just
is
jumped
two
ahead.
times in a week that we've tried. We've been like,
I'm like never first, so I got confused. I got like deer in the headlights.
Yeah.
Like I don't say my name first. I never say my name first.
We moved everything around in here. Also, to be fair, so everyone's sitting in a different spot than normal.
I'm actually sitting in the exact same spot.
I think it's that's
that
true.
Is
Actually, he was like, it seems completely fine to me. I don't know what's wrong with you assholes.
We've been reflected around the x-axis, I think is what's happening.
Shut up, nerd.
Something like that, sure. If that means we're all in different spots, then yeah, totally.
And in that case, Chart already said that.
Right. Nailed it. But this week, we will be talking about the Unbeatable Squirrel Girl, which is really hard for me to say.
It's really hard to say.
Girl.
Squirrel is already a hard word.
Squirrel is tricky.
Squirrel.
It's tricky.
Earl. It's like Earl. It just sounds weird.
Squirrel.
It's weird to spell, too. I don't know. Maybe that's just me.
I misspell it every time that I write it.
I just spell it SQURLGURL. Squirrel Girl.
Squirrel Girl.
Perfect. I don't know why they didn't title it that. That would have been so much more appropriate.
Makes it easier.
Especially with all the text intros.
Yeah, there's lots of text in this book.
Well, I mean, like the texting.
Well, yeah,
like
there's the
physical
texting
messaging
stuff,
yeah.
and then there's the
that's
lots of text.
Yeah. Who pitched this book?
I did.
Oh, yeah. So, Joe, you pitched this book.
Wait, I did?
Yes, you did. Do you want to talk about it a little bit?
Yeah, I fucking love this book. It's just I think that one of my favorite things are I love comedy. I love laughing at stuff, and so I think comics. Like, I've read funny comics. Barry Ween is funny. Mm-hmm. You know, there's one of my favorite comics is Tag and Binks. It's a Star Wars comics. Yeah. It's a great comic. But it's,
fantastic.
And I think a lot of...
you laughing at Tag and...
Actually, it reminded me of another Star Wars-related comic that I've been reading that I've really been enjoying. So,
what is it?
Darth and Droids.
Oh, you mean Darth Vader?
No, it's...
Because Darth Vader has some amazing droids in it right now.
No, I'm pretty sure it's Darth and Droids. Yep, Darths and Droids.
Cool.
Darths and Droids.
Is it a webcomic?
It's actually a photo capture of the... It starts as a photo capture of the original trilogy. Now he's in the prequels, and now he's in the original trilogy. But it's like photographs of the things, but then all of the dialogue has been replaced. And at least as far as I'm in, and I'm only in the first 80 panels or so, or pages, or whatever you want to call them. Basically, the premise is it's a role-playing group who are role-playing a Star Wars RPG, and like Jar Jar Binks is like the guy's little sister who's like, I'm going to come in and be this character, wah, wah, wah. And the guy who's playing Qui-Gon Jinn is like, yeah, so what we need to do is trade in your ship for lasers. We need all these guns. So like we're on Tatooine, like in the first movie, and they're like, oh yeah, we're going to trade in the starship for guns. It's like, then what are we going to put the guns on? Oh, I hadn't thought of that. Like that kind of stuff. So
nice.
It's just it's been amusing me. So sorry,
Sounds
that's
great.
the circular event that occurred when Joe brought up Tag and Binks.
Yeah, well, but...
I thought you were going to talk shit on Tag and Binks, and I was going to be like, whoa, we have
that's
problems.
fucking great.
We have problems now.
But if a comic can make me like laugh out loud, then I will love it. And even if it has flaws, Squirrel Girl made me laugh out loud and has no flaws. There's like it's really hard to get timing right in like a static visual medium. It's like, because comedy is all about timing.
Yeah.
And Ryan North, he just gets it. Like the text at the bottom of the panels and just the people he puts. I love that it's Craven and fucking Whiplash. It's just like, I just love, what does she say? Hey, Craven, guess what? You're a big jerk.
You're a big jerk that sucks.
You're a big jerk that sucks. It's
I also love the like after like he has a good sense of pacing as far as like when to reveal to you that a joke is still going on.
Yes.
Like with Whiplash in the park. Like,
yes.
Days later
I
or
need to go to the
hours
bathroom.
later, still pinned down under all the squirrels. Fantastic.
Yeah, it's just it's a premise that could have very easily been overdone. It could have very easily been something like, look at this is the joke, wink wink, nudge nudge, isn't that funny? It's funny, right? But instead it's genuinely funny. And she's I really don't feel like there's a moment in this book that's meant to be a joke that I don't think is great. Like,
yeah,
just thinking about it makes me laugh.
it's very funny, and I think, you touched on it, like comedy is all about timing. I would say it's mostly about timing, because there's so much of it that is just about, like, not oversimplifying, like giving enough information, but not giving too much information. Like, you can ruin a joke by explaining it.
Yeah.
I mean, and so I think a lot of what makes this book work is you're given just enough to find things really funny.
Yeah.
Like the Deadpool card shows up before she's like, oh, hey, I've got a pack of cards about Deadpool explaining them. Like that doesn't ever, they're not spoiling their own jokes by trying to do elaborate setups. They're just giving you funny situations and funny information and letting you roll with it.
Yeah.
I think it's very clever. I think it's the way that like a Sunday comic strip works, because they don't have a lot of panel space to do 800 panels of setup.
Yeah,
and I think it
exactly.
works really well in this, and I think that probably the webcomic pedigree like helps with that a lot.
Oh yeah. I mean, Dinosaur Comics is one of my favorites, and it's just clip art.
Yeah,
It's clip art of two dinosaurs just talking to each other. But it's really one of the most, it's incredibly well written, esoteric, and hilarious. And so, like, seeing him write this it's just awesome. He nails it. Because I agree. I think that there's a lot that goes into good comedy, and being off in any one, it's. I think I say it's all about timing, because I think timing is kind of, you can have good setup, you can have good pacing,
right?
But if your timing is off, you can really fall flat on your face.
Like bad timing will ruin a joke before anything else, and I think so. Or bad taste, maybe. I don't know.
Well,
they're both bad,
I mean, there's a lot of shit that'll ruin a good joke, and I think the best thing about this is that it doesn't happen. It's just
I think that it plays with time really well. I mean, going back to the Whiplash thing, but also the Galactus issue.
Oh yeah,
which I think is one of the most brilliant issues like ever.
Yeah.
Is that not the one that opens with her like standing over Galactus?
Yeah, and it's like the end.
Yeah.
And then they do the letters page. That was so good.
It works so well. In print, you're like, oh, I can tell there are more pages behind this. But in digital, you're like, wait, did I skip pages?
Yeah.
Like,
I did that too.
it fucks with you. And it's like, I did not load this right. And it's really great. And then it's like, okay, not really. 8 hours earlier. And then it does a lot with like then and now and before now and then exactly 8 hours from now. And then she's like, I would never try talking to animals. I'm going to say the same thing I said 8 hours ago. I'm never going to try talking to animals.
Well,
It's all of that's really clever.
Well, and like even with the Galactus thing, like it goes to the letters page, and then you're like, wait, what? Because I read it digitally too, and then so I went forward. Like press the space bar, and she's like, okay, so I guess I should just talk about how I totally kicked his butt, right? Like it's really aware of itself, and I like that. And it's like one of the things I love in SpongeBob or the title cards are like, 8 hours later.
Much later.
Yeah, so much later that we had to get a new narrator, things like that.
Yeah, I love those.
That Galactus one is really fun too, I think, too, because like it opens up and Galactus is like laying there and she's like on top of him like she defeated him.
Mm-hmm.
But it turns out she didn't really defeat him. She's just like, hey, go eat nuts somewhere.
Well, she didn't beat him up.
Yeah,
she outsmarted him and sent him to a planet full of nuts.
So
and
once again, you're deceived.
Yeah, I loved it. And I also think that issue has like a really cute moment with the squirrel Tippy Toe when she's like, oh, is it true that everyone sees Galactus
like my favorite
differently?
thing.
And she like throws him up in the air and it's like a Galactus squirrel. He's like, yeah, like a purple guy with the tuning fork hat and she's like, yeah, pretty much the same. Like, not like, oh, it's a giant squirrel, because like, I don't know, I thought that was so clever and so funny. And that you don't see that ever.
It's a beautiful example of the thing we're always talking about. Show me, don't tell me. Like, if like, I feel like the urge would be, don't show Galactus, and then have Tippy Toe saying something like, just look just like me. And that would have been like a cop-out. The fact that like, you see that Tippy Toe's like, well, yeah, of course he's not going to mention it looks like a giant squirrel, because he's just like, yeah, it's a giant hat, right? Giant tuning fork hat. Big G belt, right? Like,
it's a big guy.
Yeah, like, we're seeing the same thing, clearly.
I thought it was so clever. I like all the little bottom of the panel jokes work really well for me, too. The book's chock full of jokes. So many jokes that I'm sure I missed some or passed some up because
the Twitter feed is one of my favorites.
Oh, the
when
text,
she's talking about how she beat up Craven, and he's like, "You didn't beat me up."
I like that it's almost a recap page, but at the same time, it's like also new information.
Yeah, and it's brilliant. It's a brilliant way to like kind of recap what's going on.
I will say though, if I had, it's not really a complaint, but if I had a recommendation. It would be to give yourself time to read this, because I tried to cram it in today because I'd already read it, and I was like, oh, I'll just breeze through it really fast before we record. I forgot how dense this book is.
I did that too, because I've been reading it as it comes out, and I just recently got that because it came out. But I was like, oh, I could just breeze through that. It's fine.
Yeah, it's really funny because it was like, oh yeah, I'll just read it really quick, but then there's the recap
hours
page.
later.
Yeah, there's the recap page with all the twittering, which takes time to go through and figure out what's going on. And then there's so much dialogue and so much narration, and then you've got the jokes at the bottom of the line. And I don't want to say that that's a complaint, because it's not, because I think anytime you can chalk that much information into a comic, that's really cool. And I also think that it really gets you your money's worth when you're buying it in singles.
Oh, absolutely.
Which is something I think is important for people.
Yeah.
If you're going to buy comics, I mean, I think that's a good consideration, is do you get your money's worth in a $3.99 or a $2.99 book?
Oh, absolutely.
And I think this one's super dense, so I think you do get a lot.
Well, it's there's just joke after joke. Everything is just so, silly. And it's there's some filler things, I think, but they're also funny. It's not just, oh, we're going to say this because of, I need something to fill this page. It's more of one of my favorites is where she's like, quick, go to the squirrel-a-jig. And then they go there, they're like, oh, that's not going to work. And then they move on. It's just a silly thing that kind of takes up space, but squirrel-a-jig is just such a funny thing.
It feels related too.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a complete non sequitur. It's all information that is either relevant or just at least funny in that situation.
She does have a squirrel helicopter.
Yeah.
the
squirrel-a-jig.
the squirrely gig.
Yeah.
The squirrel-a-gig. That's what
this is not going to get us to space. I like that she had to look at it to figure that out.
I also love that Tippy Toe flies around in just a gauntlet, like an Iron Man gauntlet.
The helmet, right?
Yeah.
The helmet.
I love it. It's good. And she puts her squirrel ears on top of the spacesuit helmet. Yep. Everyone knows that one of my favorite things in comic books is when people wear costumes on top of other costumes.
Yep.
Anytime Batman puts a spacesuit over his bat suit is like my favorite thing ever. So that was perfect for me.
That one in the suit, I love. My favorite is the Superman spacesuit.
Oh yeah,
It's just got a big S on it.
and it's like, why are you wearing this?
Like, remember yesterday when you were flying through space and they're like, yeah, it took a lot out of me. I'm just going to wear this now.
But this one looks super cool, guys.
I mean, he can have fashion sense.
Yeah.
Just like
Power armor, it makes him more powerful.
Bruce got me this for my birthday. I'm
does.
gonna wear it.
I don't
Be
wanna
rude
di-
not to.
I don't want to disappoint him. See that moon over there? Normally I could just punch that moon into dust, but with this, I can do it with like a quarter of the strength.
Yeah, that's that's important in long
Hey,
fights.
the current Superman would definitely need a spacesuit, and the post-Infinite Crisis Superman, post-Crisis on Infinite Earth Superman, occasionally needed a spacesuit.
I think it depended on who was writing him.
Well, I mean that's always the problem
Yeah.
with him.
But
Some people just want to really draw Superman in a fucking spacesuit, which I
again,
understand.
it's because it's awesome.
It is awesome.
I don't know. I find a lot of really entertaining things in this book. That being one of them. But Brent,
You
what
haven't
did,
said
what did
much.
you enjoy about this book, or not enjoy?
I was not expecting to enjoy it. There's something about the first couple of panels and the style. I was like, And then I was like, oh no, wait, this is a delightful joyride. I mean, this is gonna be one of those shows where it's just like, yep, everybody liked it, hooray! But it was good.
I mean,
it
that
was
happens
funny.
sometimes.
Yeah, it's
I think for my part, there were a few things that really tickled me, but I think the biggest one was in the beginning of the Galactus confrontation when she's like, "Oh my god!" Like he's like, "You don't have to keep." You don't have to
Yelling at
translate.
me?
You don't have to keep yelling at me. He's like, "Oh my god, you can hear me." He's like, "I can shoot laser beams. I consume planets. I'm like, one with the infinite cosmos." Hearing you in space and translating the words of animals is not that difficult.
I like that too.
It's like, fair enough. I also liked that her whole thing when she goes into his sphere and she's like, "Oh, remember how they were talking about how it's like everybody perceives him in a way that like makes rational sense, and it's like an old, like really clunky, QWERTY keyboard." And she's like, "Ha ha!" And it's just like, all right.
I love the flashback too with when she's stealing the Iron Man suit and she's like, "Remember, Iron Man told me I could be his sidekick."
Yeah. What is it? He's like, "We can adventure together." I'm saying no, but secretly I'm saying really yes.
And then I love that it's like, this actually happened, kind of.
Yeah.
There's an AR
'cause
code.
it's actually in the back of the tray, and I forgot to read it. It's the first meeting of Squirrel. I think the first appearance.
Oh, they
of
put that in the
Squirrel Girl.
trade?
Yeah.
Oh, that's great. I didn't know that.
And it's awful. It's great. I mean, when I say it's awful, I mean it's beautiful because it's Tony Stark going, "I'm testing this blind flying stuff. If I'm even a second too late, I'll fly into one of these trees at 150 miles an hour." It's like,
Wow, Iron Man was always cool, especially before Robert Downey Jr.
Especially when he was
before
drunk.
that. Yeah, he was always cool. Remember that, kids.
I think this book won me over when it put Kraven in it. Kraven is my favorite my favorite Spider-Man villain.
Yeah.
It's just because
You're right. I have become abnormally focused on men who are spider-like.
and then just I think I was telling Kirby this, like, Kraven's Last Hunt is probably one of the most, like, it's one of the darker Spider-Man stories, and it's intense. Like, it's really intense.
Yeah.
And to go from something like that to this, where he's fighting squirrels,
Yeah.
it's beautiful. It's like there was so much potential to just screw up those moments, but he doesn't. He just keeps nailing it.
Yeah. It's a classic villain. It's a villain a lot of people recognize. And it was a good first choice. I especially like some of the later stuff that happens in the book. How far does the trade go?
Only
It's
the
until-
first 4
yeah.
issues, which
Okay, do we see the rhino or the hippopotamus man in
No,
those?
that's in 5.
Okay, that's one of my favorites. Also, Chipmunk Hunk
Yeah.
is like one of the best characters ever invented, simply because of his name and because he's basically just like a tuxedo mask of furry animals. and that's perfect. Everyone needs that.
Everyone.
So if you didn't read more than 4, you have those 2 things to look forward to, as well as many other.
Read it.
I was actually kind of upset because I just got the trade and they didn't have the 5th issue, which I think is
the Tales of Squirrel Girl, right?
Yeah, where they're like locked up and they're like, "Isn't Squirrel Girl like she's like half spider and just like
Then he went to another universe and got a special costume. I think you're thinking of Spider-Man. I think I am thinking of Spider-Man.
I really liked that issue too. Yeah, everyone's like trapped in the Statue of Liberty. Yeah, that's a good one. I will. Okay, so we're all having like a good sunshiny fun time. I'm gonna crap on this. Marvel, fuck you in your trade department. 4 issues? Are you kidding me? How much is that trade?
This is $15.99.
Fuck you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fuck you.
$4 an issue. Well, wait, hold on. There's the origin issue.
But that's more expensive or the same as buying the singles.
Oh no, absolutely. I think it's actually it's at least the same.
Yeah.
Well, they're gonna do. I was trying to figure this out too. Of course, I would buy it because I love it. But like they're doing the reboot and like what? I don't quite understand what's happening with that. I heard she's getting a new hat, but. That's the big thing. But like I don't know if they're gonna like stop it and then start it again because they just kind of finished their second arc, but it's kind of in like this weird space of like
Secret Wars kind of messed everything up in a weird way. But I just like you can go buy 6-issue Image trades for $10. Like this is outrageous, and it's just that kind of audacity that Joe and I were talking about Apple earlier, where it's just like their business model is fuck you, you'll buy it anyway. Yeah. And as much as I guess I can respect that, like, I can't actually. I find that really disheartening to be like, yeah, we actually don't care about what you want as a consumer, we just want your money. Well, yeah. So like asking if you ask for a better product, we're just going to laugh in your face. And I feel like that's kind of what Marvel has done. I think their trade quality has gone down significantly since I used to work at a comic book store. They used to put out these beautiful oversized hardcovers, and now they don't put that size out anymore. They only put out omnibus editions that have like 8,000 more pages than you could possibly hold in your hand, or the really tiny 4-issue trade paperbacks, 4-issue hardcovers for $25, which is ridiculous. And then the double size hardcovers, which really only contains 8 issues and is like 30 or 35. It's just like everything about the way they're marketing stuff really bothers me. And that does not have a digital code in it, does it?
I don't think it did, no.
Yeah, so you're paying like $16 and they're not even throwing in a digital code, which costs them nothing.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
That really bothers me about Marvel. Mm-hmm. So sorry to be the shitstorm on
Kirby
Marvel
just
right
picked
now,
but the Vertigo is re-releasing Sweet Tooth in hardbacks that contain 2 trades. She paid $25.
Paid $15.
Oh, I'm sorry. She paid less than she paid for Squirrel Girl.
It's really nice.
For
what is the retail price on those?
It's $30, but I pre-ordered it on Amazon, so I guess I got a good deal on it.
But even $30, I mean,
$30 for
you're getting
2 full trades.
2/3
issues.
more book.
Yeah,
and it's on heavy quality stock. It's a hardback. It's a beautiful edition.
Got a dust cover, so it's fancy.
Well, it's like the Elephant Men volumes too. They're huge, and they're like $24. And I think there's 8 issues in them, plus a ton of like back matter type stuff, and then it's like really high quality. The glue could be better, but like with the Marvel, I have the Hawkeyes. Yeah. And I think there's like, I only have the first one. I think there's like 4 Hawkeye trades, 4 or 5. It really has not been going on that long. Like there should not be that many trades for how short that series is. Yeah. And they are falling apart. And I take pretty decent care of my books. Yeah. Yeah. I'm really unsatisfied with Marvel's collection department. It used to be like no question DC had the worst trade department of all time. Just because it took them like 2 years to put a trade out, and then when they did, it was like really bad quality. But I think Marvel's trying to win that title. They gotta be first at everything, including first worst.
That's a thing, right? You can be that.
First worst, yeah.
Okay.
The
yeah.
worstest.
Well, they're in the midst of their own corporate civil war, so that'll work out well for everybody, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Insert the eye roll here.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
Wait,
yeah.
Marvel or DC?
Marvel.
Marvel.
Yeah.
Well, because what? Disney just fired everybody at Marvel Studios, except...
No, that's not what happened. Kevin Feige petitioned Disney, so now he reports directly to, and I don't think he fired everybody.
They don't report to Marvel anymore.
Yeah,
They
so
report
Kevin
to
Feige
Disney.
no longer reports to the CEO of Marvel. He now reports to Alan Horn at Disney.
Right.
And then in the course of that, they disbanded the Marvel Creative Continuity Committee, which was Brian Michael Bendis and a couple of other people, Joe Quesada, I think Axel Alonso and somebody else, who basically were a brain trust, Jeff Loeb, I think, were the brain trust that basically sent notes to the various groups who were doing production stuff at Marvel Studios to say, hey, just so you know, it would probably be better for you to do this with the character because that's like what keeps it consistent with the comics. And, so the rumor mill is that basically Kevin Feige hates Ira Perlmutter,
Yeah.
who's the head of Marvel.
Ike Perlmutter.
Ike Perlmutter. Because he hates being interfered with. Apparently, a lot of the folks include... Perlmutter's, notoriously quiet. He doesn't, talk to anybody or do anything. And he's apparently stayed out of the creative control of Marvel. But, every time something happens, there's mysteriously, all this bad trash talking about what kind of a douchebag he is, which people are now saying maybe that's Kevin Feige trying to kind of flood the airwaves with his perspective. But Feige basically apparently used the whole Age of Ultron thing that it didn't do, quote, as well as they were hoping, to basically say, yeah, these guys are cramping my style. I want to be able to do whatever I want. I'm tired, and of course, depending on who you ask, the reason that Ultron veered as much as it did is not because of the creative committee. It was because he ignored the creative committee. The creative committee was trying to be you shouldn't do random things like have Hawkeye have a family and have Bruce Banner and Widow have a relationship. Some of that stuff actually won't be helpful to you in the long run, and this is why. And he was like, no, I'm going to run it my way. And of course,
why
is he suddenly William Shatner?
The counterpoint to that, I guess, is I think, do they need...
Right, do they need to hew so close to the comics?
Yeah.
Do they need the input or the legacy?
Right.
Do they need those things? And I guess the question is it more useful to have multiple storytellers who know the characters on some esoteric level and know maybe what makes them popular or not? And I think that's I think basically now we're going to find out.
Yeah.
Phase 3 will be primarily Kevin Feige and his brain trust convincing Disney, who
And
unfortunately has very deep pockets and not the best sense about what makes a good movie.
Well, and
on that scale.
I think we've seen the litmus test has been Fox and Sony, and that they know the characters better than Marvel does, and so they're able to put out higher quality material than any comic book that's ever been written. Oh,
your face has stayed so straight to her neck.
What are you talking about? That's not
amazing.
I'm not joking. Everyone loved Fantastic Four.
That was amazing.
Nicolas Cage is really Johnny Blaze.
So
holy
good.
shit!
Yeah, so
I was almost taken in by him. Jared looked so. He looked so. What's the
deadpan.
Yeah, he was just deadpan.
That's a thing.
I
You
was.
can do that.
I was like, yeah, Fox and Son. No, blasphemy.
Yeah, I think that when you give characters free reign to guys like David Goyer who write Batman and are like, oh, I totally know what's cool about Batman, but
where are the drugs going?
Subtlety is 50 miles above David Goyer's head, and he couldn't write a script to save his life.
Except some people seem to think that he's a competent director. They'd be wrong.
Well, Goyer, he's a writer.
Yeah, but he also directed Blade 3, and some people believe some people believe that
this argument.
some people believe that to be a fine film.
Maybe he can direct. Maybe that's what he should be doing.
You know what's interesting too? I just remembered this. You know who David Goyer used to work with a lot?
I don't know.
Jeff Johns.
Really?
So it's fascinating to me that some people in this room might think of David Goyer as being competent, yet don't like his choice in partners.
I found Blade 3 to be exactly the kind of fucking treatment that Blade deserves, and it was hilarious. It was hilarious. And it had Parker Posey in it.
So I don't know. I guess we'll see in phase 3. But
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
'cause part of me is like, I really liked those parts of Age of Ultron. Like, well, okay, I really liked the Hawkeye parts of Age of Ultron, and I thought that Hulk was horribly underused again.
Right.
That's maybe my personal bias about the Hulk, but
Blade 2 was overrated.
Blade 2 is, I don't know that I've seen that, so I have no response for you. Blade 1 is fine. That's as far as I'm willing to go.
Blade 1, just to fucking trip everybody out here, Blade 1 is almost 20 years old. It's 17 years old.
I was going to say, the last time I saw it was like near 20 years ago.
Me too. I went and saw it on my 21st birthday.
Wow, this is long. You are old.
Yeah, we rode our dinosaurs to the theater, and we got down, and...
Joe,
Did you
you're
get,
not
like,
that old.
A huge rack
You
of
hopped in
ribs?
your dad's Studebaker. You went to the drive-in. Don't act like there were dinosaurs around.
I got on my penny farthing bicycle and went down to see the talkies.
Yeah, so...
Nestle's Crunch, only 5 cents. It's gone up so much.
The train's coming right for us.
I've
Oh
lost
no!
them. Toby, I've lost them. I'm so sorry.
Feel
They're
it.
gone. They're so far gone. Yeah, I don't know how to transition back to the book from this.
Well, no, I
mean,
think this is interesting to. I think it's interesting to me because, if you look at stuff like Squirrel Girl, right? The interesting thing to me is that Disney and Marvel Studios have made it perfectly clear that they don't care about their female audience. Like a friend of mine was talking about this.
Oh, you mean the
other
Age
day.
of Ultron cover that doesn't have Black Widow on it?
Or the fact that the action figure with the motorcycle,
Oh, they replaced
doing the
it
cool
with
shit
Iron
that
Man.
she does, they replace Black Widow with Captain America
And Iron Man on a motorcycle.
yeah,
Which makes
he
fucking no
totally
sense.
rides the Iron Cycle. Duh.
No, yeah. Okay.
It's like Mask, but then they can write something like this, which I think is really. I mean, like...
Well, keep in mind, like, we must remember, I think it's easy to be like, Marvel, monolithic, Marvel, one mind,
Yeah.
Marvel, make decision, Marvel, like Hulk. No,
Right.
Marvel's like, what, 100 people?
Oh, yeah, no,
Yeah.
totally.
And clearly the guys who are in the licensing department are like, all right, who's going to give us the most money? Who's going to do it? Yeah, money. I'm going to give you underwear, you T-shirts, you whatever. And people are like, yeah, we're going to make a T-shirt with all guys, and then we're going to sell it in a women's small. That'll work, right? And they're like, how much you going to pay us? $1 million. Great, do it.
Yeah.
Like, and then you got, all of the sensitive writers and artists walk in the other hallway who are like, I care about my craft and I want
Right.
people to be diverse and all of that other shit, right?
Well, yeah. For Disney, the acquisition of Marvel, it very much was... We have the girls'
about
market
boys.
covered,
Yeah, no, it's
right?
about-
Like we
yeah.
got Disney princesses already. What the fuck else do
Yeah.
we need? Like we don't need Black Widow.
We've got Frozen. That alone.
And I mean, in a way, they're kind of right. Like they do have that market cornered, and so now they have both markets cornered.
Right.
And the fact that now in America we're starting to see like the crumbling of the gender barrier between toy aisles. The blue aisles and the pink aisles and the every other color aisles are now mushing together, and I think that's
Creating a muddy brown color.
I feel like you have to have a situation happen like the Black Widow thing with Age of Ultron to
Yeah.
really shake them up.
Oh,
Yeah.
well, yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it happened on a smaller level with like the conversation around Young Justice when it got canceled and like the outrage when they were like, well, it basically came down to not being able to sell toys.
Yeah.
And that's why we didn't care. And like that caused enough of a ripple that by the time the Age of Ultron thing happened, people were like, why the fuck are you not listening? We're
Right.
telling you to not be fucking morons about this. And I think now probably the next time that there's a major female character, which hopefully in phase 3 will be happening with a lot more, between Wasp,
Captain Marvel.
Captain Marvel,
Well, and
there's
they've
somebody
teased
else.
something-
More Black Widow.
Yeah.
Jessica Jones.
Jessica Jones.
Yeah, Jessica Jones. And there's somebody
Night
else.
Nurse is
who's-
going to be all up in there because I think Rosario Dawson just confirmed not just Jessica Jones, but didn't she also
Cage.
confirm Luke Cage
Yeah.
as well?
Right. So, yeah. Although I don't know that they're doing any toys for those series on Netflix.
Well,
but I
they
mean,
really
but there is
should,
other
but,
licensing
whatever.
property
Yeah,
stuff.
absolutely.
So, I mean, yeah, I don't know. I think I think it takes those big events where they totally fuck up and it causes ripples. So, for me, it's mostly about. Like I feel like the presence of Squirrel Girl and the the newer Miss Marvel book, and even the changes that were made in Spider-Woman, and a lot of the changes we're seeing in the way that Marvel is choosing on an editorial level to handle their female characters, and by their inclusion of more creators who are diversified, shows that stuff does happen, right? Like Axel Alonso has been very clear. He's like, I am more than happy to start diversifying this stuff, especially because, but you know, like he's also been clear though on the flip side, right? Like it has to move.
Yeah.
Well,
like people need to put their money where their mouth is.
Yeah, absolutely. Bottom line, it's a business.
And at this point, we're kind of getting both sides of it, right? Like they're putting out some fantastic stuff, and we're shelling out the cash for it, so it'll keep happening.
But flip side of that again is if you give it to us in a shitty package for $3.99, like I'm sorry, you're not just competing with Captain America versus Squirrel Girl.
Right.
You're competing Captain America and Squirrel Girl versus hundreds of fantastic Image, Dark Horse, IDW, Archaea books. Like you're competing against the indie market now too. Like you can't just say, oh, you know, if you really wanted a diversified female character, you'd buy this. And when this is so much of a worse deal than stuff like Lazarus, like how?
But I mean,
how can you compete?
But here's the thing. I've been thinking about this a lot lately.
All right, explain it to me.
Lazarus is great.
Right.
But we also have an amazing benefit. We live in a town with not a spectacularly huge population where we can drive 10 minutes and hit 2 comic book shops that support our indie comic habit.
Yeah, absolutely.
And Image is by no means small press in the way that some of the other stuff that even one of our local shops carry. But I can think of having lived in Seattle area and having to go 2 to 3 times that distance and still only ending up in shops that predominantly are going to have only Marvel and DC and major brand third-party books like Star Wars and Firefly, but not Lazarus and a bunch of that stuff. Now, some of that's changed.
That was a while ago.
Well, that was a while ago, and I've been back there, and so that is changing. Like, there's certainly more presence of Image and Vertigo than there was before, but I still, like, I was even in Southern California a year ago, walked into my buddy's comic book shop, and it was still 98% Marvel and DC.
And that happens.
So I feel like the Image is not something to be ignored, but I think that sometimes we have the sense that it's that it's rocking the market more than it might be in certain situations. Like, I think that Marvel and DC can still afford to be kind of like, meh.
And I think that I do have a very different perception because we have fantastic comic book stores in this town. But counter argument again is there are a lot of people that live in towns without fucking comic book stores. And in that case, they're not competing against the guys that only carry Marvel and DC. They can go to Amazon and get anything. Yeah. Then go to Image's website and get all their comics DRM free download. I mean, like, there are other options now. It's not just the comics.
Oh, no, I'm not disputing that. I just think that until, like, it's still like a Marvel and DC's market share is eroding, but clearly not fast enough to cause them to really, like, unfortunately, like, this is the whole thing with the New 52, right? Like, everybody can talk about how much it sucks, but if they're still putting up, 500,000 copies of Batman sold or whatever the fuck it is, it's just like. Well,
I think on the far side, 6-7 years removed from the launch of the New 52, I think we're starting to see.
It hasn't been that long, has it?
Yeah, it really has.
5 years.
It's been at least 5 years. Yeah,
4 years.
It's been a while.
How long have we been doing the show?
At least 4 years.
So it's been 4.5 years.
Yeah,
I was thinking about this the other day.
Yeah, so. I mean, I think the further we get away from that relaunch, the more we see that, like, those waves of everyone complaining.
Oh, sure.
Like, they're starting to show, and, like, DC's slipping further and further behind Marvel as far as market share goes.
Well, and then they, like, changed everything up, and they're trying to do something. Yeah, I mean, yeah.
We've also talked about the fact that, like, sure, maybe the market share isn't going to the Image comics as much. Like, fans aren't flocking away from DC and Marvel to go read Image books. But those other companies are picking up
a lot of the new
readers because they're new reader friendly. They have better gateway books. I think that in a lot of ways, like shit like Nimona and Fun Home in bookstores in like a Barnes and Noble don't sit in the graphic novel section, which is an impenetrable wall of just filth. But instead, they sit with like Fun Home's in biography. And Nimona's in teen fantasy. Like, these books compete. These comics compete with books now.
Well,
I think it's a whole different animal, and I think.
Oh yeah, no.
I'll tell you, when I walk into a comics, I went to a comic store up with my parents the other day because I just discovered that there's a Katsu Burger in Linwood, so I don't have to drive to Georgetown anymore. I'm gonna be like,
shout out
so
Katsu
fat.
Burger.
Shout out to Katsu Burger. Oh God, a million shout outs. And I walked in and I didn't even look at the Marvel and DC stuff. I went and looked because the last time I was at a comic book store, I bought Witches by Scott Snyder and
Image, right?
Yeah, which is an Image first, so it was $10.
Yep.
And I bought the second volume of Federal Bureau of Physics, which was $15 for 5 issues. And I didn't even bother to look at the Marvel stuff because I knew that it's like I don't even bother if there's a Marvel book I really want, I buy it on Amazon because I know I'm going to get it cheaper.
Yeah.
And it's just ridiculous.
It's tough too because I mean, as much as I started a second job and kind of ran out of time to make Top of the Stack, a big reason I stopped making that show is because I got really tired of Marvel and DC, and like it is just it's too much. Like reading all of those books just makes me sad on the inside, a lot. So
Yeah, that's fair.
I mean, not to be just like a Marvel hater because they have great books out there, books like The Unbeatable Squirrel Girl. And I mean, I think that they did a really great job in diversifying their line. Something that DC struggled with the reboot was everything was the same tone. And you have great books like Uncanny Avengers and stuff at Marvel that are like, you know, deep and heavy and New Avengers and like World Ending and Secret Wars and all this stuff. At the same time, you've got great stuff like Unbeatable Squirrel Girl that we can laugh and have a good time reading.
Yep.
And there are not a lot of DC books that make me laugh, period. And there are definitely not as many that make me laugh as hard as this one.
Oh, yeah.
So.
The only thing about DC that makes me laugh as hard as this
is
book
their press releases.
Yeah. Pretty much.
Boom. Roasted. Do people still say that? Probably not.
Sometimes. Sometimes
Just
they
now.
Okay.
Someone said it.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I'm a bit out of touch, though, with what the kids say. Getting old, guys. But yeah, did you guys have anything else to say about The Unbeatable Squirrel Girl?
Well, just kind of like a general closing statement for
Yes.
Unbeatable Squirrel Girl and comics like this. I think they find a wider audience and are better received because they have fun, and a lot of the Marvel and DC comics don't do that anymore, particularly DC. But you have like the secret romance comics that are coming out that are being really well received.
Ms. Marvel.
Miss Marvel is like a really fun comic and has fun with that world because it understands this premise is ridiculous.
Yeah.
Like these characters are ridiculous, so let's actually have fun with them. And I think that gets not only new readers excited because they're kind of like these good introductory steps, but it keeps old readers excited because you get to play with characters that you've seen over and over and over again in a way that's new and it's funny.
Absolutely.
And it's entertaining.
Take, for example, the opposite of this, where, like, Squirrel Girl has been around for a long time in comics. Just a ridiculous character. Like, really, Squirrel Girl? We're going to make a... okay, run with it. Right? But when you go to relaunch a character like that in the modern era, you don't try to make her, like, grimdark and everyone take her seriously. You tell a fun story about that.
Well, oh, sorry.
I was just going to say, like, when DC revived Vibe... everyone thought it was a joke, and they were like, no, take this character as seriously as Batman. You're like, I can't. He's a Puerto Rican breakdancer who vibrates the ground to cause earthquakes. The premise alone, like, has completely defeated any... I mean,
think that's an important lesson of the Chromium age, post-Chromium age, or modern age, or whatever. is
the Crisis era.
The Crisis era is that you don't have to have a uniform line-wide tone.
Absolutely.
And in fact, I think you do better by not having it.
I totally agree.
Although I will say, I do want to give Brian Michael Bendis special props because in Secret Avengers, the one that launched in 2010, Squirrel Girl was the babysitter of Luke Cage and Jessica Jones' child. And like she wasn't quote unquote serious, but there were some serious moments with her. And like the whole thing is like she shows up and she's like, "Yeah, I'm like totally here to do this." And I can't remember who sent her, like Doctor Strange or something. And they're like, "Are you kidding me?" And she's like, "Oh, I love kids, and I'll totally keep them safe." And they're like, "Okay." And at one point, like the house is being machine gunned down and shit, and she totally breaks faces and is like, "You're not hurting this kid." And she's like dodging between shit and like running with the kid. And the kid's like, "Yay!" And so I thought at the time it was a very clever use of Squirrel Girl.
That's good. I mean, I think...
But no, it wasn't grimdark. She was still her. It was just,
right, and I think that's the difference when we see stuff like Jessica Jones, like reinvented for the modern era. I think Bendis does a good job of like reminding us that this character is still slightly ridiculous and still used to wear spandex and knows that they were kind of like...
Yeah, and that's what I like the most about that series, is
Right.
that she's just kind of like, ugh.
Yeah, exactly.
Why did I
Like,
do that?
Right, in the same way that anyone that goes through any kind of phase is like, oh wow, I don't really want to talk about my, whatever phase, my super gothic phase, or
I think that's what it's occurring to me now is that there aren't, at least not that I can recall, there aren't any characters in DC who have that kind of like the Greek chorus style thing where they talk about like what's happening in a certain sense and make commentary on it, because like that's always been the charm of Spider-Man too, is that
Right.
sometimes he's just like, he's like, okay, there's giant robots flying and destroying things and stealing kids' lollipops, this is insane. And then like, and that's like the more muted version.
Right.
And then Deadpool is the more like, hey guys, whoa.
I think Starman,
Yeah, I mean,
Starman was a bit like that because he was kind of like thrust into this new...
Yeah.
He didn't want to be a hero, right? Like the thing about DC that's different from Marvel, this is way off topic, but one thing that sets DC apart from Marvel is people are like, I am a hero because it is the right thing to do and it is good and lawful and just, right? And like Marvel's heroes tend to be a bit more conflicted. Starman was a Marvel style hero in the DC universe that did a good job of introducing you to the DC universe, because his brother and his dad were the hero, and he's like, I'm just a guy. I don't have powers, and I don't know, I don't use the technology. I didn't set out to be a hero. And then, spoilers for the first issue of Starman, which came out 20 years ago, when his older brother dies and can't be Starman anymore, and he picks up the cosmic rod or whatever
right.
gives him this power.
Cosmic rod.
He's like, all right, I guess I fucking do this. And they're like, where's your outfit? He's like, I don't think I'm
got this
cut
bomber
out for
jacket
this, for the spandex, And he was a bit more like that. And I think it is a
Jack
more
Knight, right?
I think it's more of a Marvel kind of. I think you're right. It's more of a Marvel type trait, but
Yeah. Well, we even talked about that with Miss Marvel when Kamala meets Wolverine. She's like, "Oh my god!"
yeah.
Yeah.
Being self-aware of the universe, I think, is a really cool thing that they're doing right now. Where like
They're nice and intertwined with each
Yeah.
other. Although I will say, it seems like a lot of Marvel stuff, at least what I was reading, I feel like they really kind of shoehorned the Guardians of the Galaxy into them a lot. And I'm
Yeah,
kinda
it's like, whoa, and a team up with
I
Guardians.
don't know if we need like an issue of Silver Surfer with Guardians of the
Yeah.
Galaxy to just say hello and leave.
yeah.
But I think everybody got really caught off surprised by how well that movie did. They were like, "Holy shit, we better do something
I love
about
that
that."
movie.
Yeah, it's great. I love it too, but I'm with you. I don't know that they need to be in every comic book.
Especially because half of them in the comics aren't even in the movie. Like,
Yeah.
or the same people, really. Like,
Well, yeah, they're very different
yeah.
in tone. So, anything else about Squirrel Girl? I can't say that. I really can't.
Squirrel Girl.
It's hard
Squirrel Girl.
for me. Squirrel Girl.
Squirrel Girl.
It's tough.
It's like my
I'll
jaw
never make
can't
it.
move right. Squirrel Girl.
Yeah.
Girl.
I'll never make it in the world of radio. I'm so sorry I failed you all. But yeah, let's move on to recommendations.
Okay.
And I'm actually going to start
Yes.
with our Patreon fan pitch.
Don't do it. Okay, do it now.
Okay, it's hashtag number one chard fan Brandon Hill's pitch this week. And he is pitching the same book he pitched last month in the the patented Brandt method.
Hey!
Just continuing to... That's called... in chess, how they have, like,
the Kasparov
king
Open.
Yeah, and it's like like they have the king me. No, like, they make moves after people, like Kasparov's gambit and stuff,
the
right?
king me move in chess, obviously.
Kirby.
You put the queen on top of the king, and
Yeah.
you're like, king me.
Whoa, that's
It could go
too erotic for
everywhere if
chess.
it wants to.
Way
Yeah,
erotic for
that's
chess. That's erotic chess.
Yeah. And so anyway, Wonton Soup, which is a great book by the
Anthony Bourdain.
fantastic James Stokoe. It's not by Anthony Bourdain.
That was Jiro's.
Yeah.
Get Jiro. Or,
Yeah.
Okay.
No,
I'm
Wonton
sorry.
Soup is the one. They're like space. They're space
Yes.
chefs.
Yes.
Let me borrow that like 7 years ago.
Yeah.
I don't know if I read it.
It's really good.
I
You
read it.
should.
It was
I think
good.
I looked at it and
It's in.
I might have
So
read it.
I lent it to you in like the smaller manga size volumes,
Yes.
like the 2 little ones. It's now in like a one bigger one with like bigger
That's
art,
nice.
and it's way better.
Okay.
And I forget who puts it out now, but it is no longer. I think it was Oni before, and it's not now, or it is Oni now, and it used to be somebody else. I don't remember. I think it's not Oni now. Anyway, it doesn't matter who publishes it. The book's out. It's nice. It's very cool. Black and white book about Johnny Boyo, who's like a guy. He's a chef in space, and they like battle, like Iron Chef or like samurai style.
Oh, I did read that one.
Yeah,
It was like 7 years ago. I don't remember a lot
Yeah,
of it. now.
it's really fun, and I really like it. So, yeah, it's cool if you like manga style stuff. If you liked King City, if you like Brandon Graham stuff, if you like James Stokoe's work on Godzilla Half Century War, or that one issue of Avengers 100 years from now, or whatever that was called, Avengers Millennium. It was awesome. Yeah. Read that. 100th Anniversary Avengers. It's on the wall behind Kirby. I just couldn't read it. But yeah, if you like James Stokoe, check it out. Just stop moving stuff in front of it. And so that's our Patreon fan pitch. So thank you for that fan pitch. And Brant, what would you like to?
Sometimes DC does things good. I want to pitch Grayson, Volume 1, by Tim Seeley, Tom King, Michael Janin, Stephen Mooney, and Jeremy Cox. It's about Dick Grayson going from being Nightwing to James Bond, basically.
Yeah.
And I've heard good things about the series.
Have you
I
read
like
it?
Spies. I haven't yet, actually. Chard makes a funny face, but I mean, people seem to enjoy it.
It's got
and
the
I wanna give
Midnighter in it.
I've heard that.
And yeah.
So I don't know.
Also, spoilers for the book. It's got a great page where this woman is trying to get. She's like jesting at Dick Grayson, and she keeps calling him like Nightwing or something. He's like, "That's not my name. That's not my name." She's like, "I'll say your name," and he's like, "Yeah, say my name." And then you flip the page, and it's like her, and it's like all pink behind him, and just like a big word balloon. It's just like her face, and she's just like, "Dick." It's the worst. It's the worst thing ever. It's terrible.
It just died inside
It's
a little bit.
really bad. But I mean, it's an interesting premise. He goes undercover to work for the Spiral Network, who are like trying to unmask heroes. Yeah. So this is after his faked death in the book that Joe and I both loved
Oh
forever.
God! Why did you have to bring that up? I have a stomach full of Taco Bell. Very volatile right now.
Yeah, God. But yeah, it's Tim Seeley wrote Hackslash, which I really love.
Zach Clash, Halash.
Hack.
I've heard it's also got a lot of kind of gratuitous TNA directed at Dick Grayson, which I think
Yes.
is hilarious.
Oh, absolutely.
And I want to read that.
He's like,
wanna see that.
One of his quotes was like, "I want to remind everyone that Dick Grayson's like a sexy thing or whatever, like a sex object or a sex symbol." I think it was sex symbol, and I
Yeah.
was like, "Did anyone forget? Did anyone forget that Dick Grayson is a hottie?" I was Snapchatting Kelly and Allison of Out of the Fridge pictures of like street clothes Dick Grayson from the 90s Chuck Dixon run, and God, he wears some bad clothes, but his sweet ponytail,
it all
so
right.
good. That's a cosplay, just casual street clothes Dick Grayson from the 90s. It'd be excellent. But Joe, what are you recommending this week?
I'm gonna recommend Satellite Sam by Matt Fraction and Howard Chaykin. Two of my favorite comics people. It's basically takes place at this television show. I think it's in the 50s, early 50s, I believe. I could be wrong. I just read it Saturday. It's been forever. But it's good. It's about this. It takes place at this television station. They're filming this live show called Satellite Sam. It's a 15-minute serial. And the star, they're filming an episode, and the star is expected to show up in the last minute and say his line, and he doesn't show up, and that's because he's dead. And
Wait,
Spoilers.
Wow.
it happens in the first issue, people.
Still kind of a spoiler.
So
I don't need to read the first issue.
you
now.
don't need to read the first issue now. But basically, it's it's half of an investigation. It's half of his son's investigation into why, but also about this very kind of Patty Chayefsky-esque, very Aaron Sorkin kind of look into the wheelings and dealings of this television station and this guy that makes television cameras trying to get a leg up on the competitors like NBC and CBS and those kinds of places. And it's really interesting. So you have these kind of dual narrative going on. Howard Chaykin does the art, and it's classic black and white Howard Chaykin stuff. I like it because they seem to temper each other. So I think Chaykin is really good at the snappy patter, but I think Fraction gives it a really nice structure. And there's not that much weird sex stuff, or at least not yet. I only read the first trade. I'd like to read all three. I think the third one just came out.
Cool.
So yeah, Satellite Sam.
Sweet. Kerbo, what do you want to...
Well, I brought Trillium, which I've pitched before, so I don't need to say anything about it.
Well, believe it or not.
So I brought Trillium for reals, and it's about these people, and I know I've sent Joe with it before, and he hasn't read it yet, so I'm sure he did a terrible job describing it. But it's...
He did. I was here. It was not good.
Yeah, it's about these people, and one is from the future and she's a lady, and then this guy from the past is in it too, and they kind of meet up in this weird sort of native area, and the natives kind of are worshiping this specific flower because it gives them special powers, and when you eat it with somebody, then you kind of share their life, and so their lives get intertwined, and it's Jeff Lemire, so it's all about the feels, and it makes you feel ways about stuff like he does with most of his things. And it's that there's a part in Sandman where I forgot her name, but she's in the car and she's falling asleep, and you kind of tilt the book.
Yeah, and the book physically turns.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff like that in this where there's visual cues that you have to flip the book around to see, and it's just kind of just really good. And I really want you guys, I keep really hoping you'll do Jeff Lemire's story just because they're so intense. Yeah. And I think that's a good, this is what it's about. So
I almost
Trillium.
pitched Sweet Tooth this week. So
you got to do that for
yeah.
a long run.
Yeah, that would be fantastic. I was just
Exactly.
excited because the new hardcover.
It's really
just
nice.
came
You should
out.
get it.
So
I know we were talking about that before, but
yeah.
I already pre-ordered the second one.
Sick. That is very cool. Kaylee, what you got for us this week?
I'm bringing back something. So it is Journey into Mystery featuring Lady Sif. There are 2 trades out. Basically, she gets fed up with frost giants and other beasties and monsters constantly invading Asgard and harming, or actually Asgardia, I guess. Because it's later in Marvel and weird. But she decides that she's going to do something about it. That she's done being weak and pitying a weak people as she sees them. And so she gets the curse or the blessing, kind of depending on how you look at it, of the Berserker. and she's just filled with rage, and she's very powerful, very strong, and she starts smiting down enemies. And some of it's dealing with how great that is. Other parts are dealing with the fallout of that, like as a power. And I think there's a lot of really good character development in this one. The art is absolutely gorgeous, and I just really like it.
Sweet. That sounds awesome. So I know we're talking a lot of shit about DC, and that happens from time to time. However, I haven't pitched a DC book in like a year because I've been doing image stuff. So I wanted to pitch a book about a character I don't really like, from an artist I only like sometimes, from an era of comics that's like, all right.
You have
to
sold
premise
me.
this, I want to say that I've gone on record several times as saying I don't really like Wonder Woman that much. And I think a big part of that is because I just don't really like understand her as a character. And I feel like my favorite Wonder Woman stories are always stories where she is a foil to another character, or they're about how other characters are different from her. So stories like Hecatea, I love Kingdom Come. We read one recently that had the Wonder Woman story we read with the dragon.
It's an army of one.
League of One.
League of One.
And I think, again, it's like, how is Wonder Woman different from the rest of the League? And I really like stuff like that. And I like her in stuff like Justice League Unlimited. But I don't really get her as like a solo character. And I've not really been able to get into any of her solo runs. Well, recently, DC has gone back.
I knew you were going there.
Well, and another thing is I didn't used to like Superman either. And it wasn't until I went back and read the reboot of Superman done by John Byrne called Man of Steel that I was able to like really get into that character. So DC, going in the way back machine, has recently published a first 25 issues of Wonder Woman Volume 2, which is the George Perez run on Wonder Woman, which is the one that everyone tells me I need to read. Starts in 1987. It is the reboot of Wonder Woman as a character. And I've never read it, so I want to check it out. I think it would be cool. So
I've been trying to set up I'm actually really excited about that because I have a friend that's really into Wonder Woman, and I've been trying to set up a back matter to contrast that with the Azzarello Wonder Woman, which I thought was the shining jewel of the new early new 52.
And that was another one that I just like. I couldn't really get into it because I think I just can't get my head around Wonder Woman. So because there was nothing wrong with that series, I just like wasn't super into it. You know, fair. So I don't know. I think it'd be cool to talk about Wonder Woman. We don't talk about her enough. But Brant, what would you like to read this week?
Sif.
Sweet.
That was hard.
I am duty bound to vote for Trillium.
All right.
What?
I have to go home with her. I don't have to go home with anybody else.
About alliances and like the secret shadow council that votes on the books?
I know.
This is all
I
staged.
just want her to be nice to me.
This is as fake as the
want you to read
WWE.
it. That's all I want. You don't even have to do it for the show.
What do you want to read?
Yeah, what do you want to read, Kirby?
Okay, with Kaylee's.
Yes.
Journey into Mystery. Kaylee, what do you want to read?
I have not read anything by Jeff Lemire, so I'm going to go with Trillium.
Oh, shit. Tiebreaker. Break me a tie.
Oh, God.
Wow. Well, I really liked Trillium a lot. I thought it was really good. And I'm torn because I want to read Lady Sif. I really like that book. And I feel like we haven't done enough Marvel lately, but then we just did one today.
Book, yeah.
So, yeah, let's do Trillium. As
Kirby punches her mic.
punches
I'm
the
so
microphone.
excited. Okay.
Sorry, everyone who was listening in the live stream before I could edit that out. But, yeah. Kirby is the worst. But yeah. So next week we'll be reading Trillium. Thank you to our episode sponsors, who I didn't say at the beginning, but I edited in an intro before we even started because I'm that good at editing.
Time powers.
I need to remember to do that. So I'm going to leave myself a note in a minute. But yeah, thanks for listening, everybody. Thanks to everyone who supports us and listens. And we'll catch you guys next week for an episode of Trillium.
Yeah.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
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 Thank you for listening to View from the Gutters. I hope our recommendations have inspired you to go out and find some new comics you'll enjoy. Join us next time for a discussion of our selected title, but like every week, we encourage you to read all of the recommended books. In the meantime, please leave us an iTunes review. It really does help new listeners find the show. You can also like us on Facebook, subscribe to our YouTube, and follow us on Twitter at ViewFRTHGutters. Feel free to email us at contact@viewfromthegutters.com. Please send us any questions, comments, or recommendations you might have. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel as we post new videos every week. And thanks again for listening. And as always, keep reading.